Well, well, well. Look who came crawling out of the withered heath and into the kitchen again. That would be me, not you. Unless, of course, you're roaming around Middle-earth looking for your... So, welcome to Seared, the audio-only version. Yes, we are now just doing audio. And by we, I mean me. But there is a we. You're listening. We're a team. We're a cohort, so I'm glad you're here. The reason I'm doing audio only is because I have a new project, which I'll be sharing about very shortly. And that project is all video. And frankly, I don't have the time to shoot 2 entire series and edit them and get this and that. No.
How about no?
Or else I'd be doing nothing but this, which would be lovely. But Polly has other things going on. Polly has a life outside of this. And unless I hire all monkey butlers to do all the other stuff, I do have to conserve my strength. I mean, look, even the hobbitses had to conserve their strength for the long journey to Mordor.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
Can you tell I've been watching a lot of Lord of the Rings lately? So having said that, I guess we can say that this is officially season 2 of Seared? Can we come to an agreement on that? I think so. Motion passed. Season 1 had 32 episodes, which I'm blown away by. I'm so proud of it, too. I thought I had maybe 15, 16, 32. And you can watch all of those on YouTube, or you can listen to them in the usual places like Spotify, etc., etc. Now, these new episodes, I will still put on YouTube, but instead of a video, of course, it'll be like a static shot. Maybe, I don't know, me eating a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, or maybe waiting for the bus, or just sitting on my couch being very demure, very mindful. Who knows? It will be surprising, exhilarating, and thoroughly dull at the same time, I'm sure. Now, before we jump in all seriousness, I want to thank all of you who have supported this podcast at any time, whether you were there since episode 1 or you caught on just near the end. Either way, so glad you're here. It's been a blast, and it will continue to be great. And as much as it was great to take a break, I had to take a break. September is now descending upon us, and I just think of September as truly the new year, with the smells of new pencil cases and notebooks and backpacks. And I thought this will be a great time to dive back in. So, my little orcs and urukais, let's jump in. Imagine the chef having to pull you and one of your colleagues aside, pulling you away from your prep, sit you down, and tell you that the front of house staff are afraid to come into the kitchen because of you too. And you're like, what gives? What possibly could we be doing to have them fear the double door entrance into the kitchen? He looks at both of you and says, it's your swearing. And I'm like, come again? He said, it's your swearing. And I look back at my colleague and him, our swearing. However, could that stop anyone from coming in to the kitchen? Everyone swears in the restaurant. It's the hospitality industry. I mean, it's a given that you will swear like a sailor. You know, when it comes down to the foundation of cooking, you have the mother sauces, and then you have the mother cursing. That's how it goes, chef. But you find out that it's not so much about the swearing or the swearing itself, but it's the topic around the swearing, the vehicle for the swearing, if you will. And it's our mama jokes. Yes, those dumb things. You know, the yo mama so blank that she blanks. Hardy har har. It's, the foolproof template for foolish temporary laughs. Of course, at the time I thought, this is dumb. People can't handle some joking around. What's wrong with them? How soft are they? But looking back, the chef was right to share this. For him to have stepped into the kitchen to tell us this, clearly he had enough feedback from the front of house. It had to be that bad. I mean, I've had to tell cooks to tone it down, but I have never had to tell anyone to cut out a certain way of talking. And this was the first and last time that I was ever told this myself. Now, the reality at the time is that me and my cooking colleague probably thought we were like some prickly edgelords who thought we were dark comedians like Bill Hicks or Anthony Jeselnik. The reality is we were just a bunch of goofs who couldn't control themselves. Our quote-unquote jokes were in poor taste. And they were sometimes disturbing. And they would often border on antagonistic, which is probably the energy that the poor front of house picked up on. You know, in fact, as I was thinking about this, I recall my verbal sparring partner getting close to actually having fist fights with one or two of the other cooks in that place. He had an anger issue, it seemed like, but so did I in some way, except mine was more inwardly focused than trying to take someone out by the Hobart mixer. So from that moment, I learned to watch my words. Not to play small with them, but to tend to them. And that would be part of my growth as a person and as a leader. And I want to share with you a little bit more about how important communication is and how you do it can impact you and others in your circles. So a couple years back, I don't know if you've seen this or heard of this. I'm sure you have, because it was big news for a while there. There was a study that concluded that people who swear more were more honest. Now, I never fully agreed. I was never fully on board. I just felt like, I don't know if I just didn't want to believe it. Because the thing is, I know a lot of slimy bastards who swear all the time. I also know, like, the holiest of folks who barely get a curse word out. But of course, those are extremes, right? The study is more correlational than causational. They were looking like at Facebook updates and all that. So it was very limited in a certain way, but it made big news. But the reality is that people do swear. It's something that most people do. You know, whether you hit your elbow on the doorframe or spill your coffee, God's forbid, or you find that your cat hacked up yet another hairball on your new carpet, you will often blurt out a colorful word or two or three to express yourself. And that's what the studied, because it's a study. But knowing this doesn't give free rein on dropping F-bombs at the dinner table or at the charity ball speech or wherever. It doesn't exonerate abusive verbal jabs. It doesn't unlock the secret level of being able to say whatever you want, whenever you damn want to, and screw the ramifications under the banner of, I'm just being honest. Just like the Americans talk about freedom of speech. Yes, most of us have that, but it doesn't mean freedom from consequences. When we communicate, especially in the workplace, there's layers, there's context, there's decorum, there's culture, and other things that dictate speech and how we talk to one another. You know, for me, as I moved up in my career, given more responsibility and eventually crossing into corporate spaces, I learned to temper my language. I had to take management courses and seminars. I was mentored by great leaders, and I learned that language was a tool. And it could be wielded with grace and power, like Aragorn using his sword Anduril to bring justice and peace to Middle-earth. Or it could be sloppily fumbled around like a blind troll with a club, just swiping at anything and everything because it can. Because here's the thing. When you're a leader, people are watching you more intently. Whether you like it or not, they do. You're held to a higher standard. You know, people are definitely listening more. Now, for sure, of course you can swear as a leader. No one's saying you can't. I did. But it was very judicious. And it was very intentional. Like, I chose my spots. You know, because you're setting an example. For me, I attempt as well as I can. Sometimes I fall flat on my face. But to speak with clarity and grace and focus, intent, etc., those are important to me. And important to when speaking to others, especially in the workplace. But this can also be at home or in your community. And this is not just about like a Puritan thing. Again, it's just about the context and the culture. What's so funny is I remember there's a video of someone asking Gary Vee, why does he swear so much? And he said, that's just him being authentic. That's his brain and his heart, how it comes up. The example he used was it's more meaningful to him to say, I give a fuck about my people, rather than saying, I care about my people. Saying that he cares about people is less impactful than when he uses the F word. And this person who was asking him questions is like, well, do you swear in front of your children? He goes, yeah. Like, that's just who he is. It's just how he expresses himself. And he explains later why he does. And, here at home, it's so funny. Our oldest, who is 16, you think I should know the ages, right? He's 16. But he asked this when he was 15, so that's why I was saying that. He asked, he's like, is it okay, like, if I'm talking to my friends online, is it okay if I swear? And it was so cute, and it was very respectful. And we're like, of course, yeah, of course, Whereas the youngest, like, he fell down the stairs, not for like a few steps, and he's just dropping F-bombs. And what's funny is that even at home, I don't swear very often. I might swear to myself in my head, but the boys know that my wife is more demonstrative in dropping certain words when she's upset or something happens. And the boys notice it because they'll joke about it. And that's just, it's neither good nor bad. There's no judgment on it necessarily. It's just that's our experience and how we grew up. And also how, for me, it was in the workplace that I learned to really dial it back. So again, this is your history. This is how you grew up. This is where your current circumstances are, where you want to be, etc. So there's no, as I talk about this, there's no right or wrong. It's just the experience that I've had in my own growth in the area of speech and communication. And again, going back, like when I started to learn all this, again, I made sure that my speech had intent. There was a purpose to what I said. And yes, idle chit-chat, that's okay. We're humans. And I know there's all sorts of people who say that I don't do small talk, or in a way that they imply that it's beneath them. And I used to be like that too. And there are times I don't really want to do small talk, but at the end of the day, it's in the small talk that we open up the windows to our souls and our lives. Like even today at the gym, as I was changing, I had my phone down, and my case is a Starbucks case. And an older gent passed by, goes, "Oh, I like that case." And I said, "Thanks. My nieces think it's very basic, and they make fun of me." And so he started to, he said, he talked about his nieces making fun of stuff and this and that. So we just had like a moment there for like 15 seconds. And it was just about a phone case. But we both kind of understood a little bit. The subtext was, getting old means like we're uncool in a way, right? And we connected on that. And that was through small talk. I don't need to necessarily say, tell me your biggest fears, stranger that I just met in the change room. And I feel like some people, they want to have those deep connections, but they don't see that it's possible in the small talk. We don't have to have these big Gandalfian epiphanies and wise words or spiritual riddles or whatnot. It's just connecting as humans. And when I do talk, and especially in the workplace, yeah, I would lace the occasional chat with a curse word or two, but it was to make a point or just to vent or just to, again, like in the locker room, to connect with someone just in a different way. And, one thing I learned was that when you don't swear or don't swear very much or openly, people very much notice when you do. And that is something I have actually used to my advantage, and I'll share a story in a second. In learning to communicate, I also learned that one of the big things of listening of communicating is listening. That is shutting up and taking in what others are saying. We often listen to respond rather than to listen to understand. It's a huge difference. We're usually like formulating a response in our head even before they finish saying their full thought. And listening is not easy, like actively listening. And so communication, listening is it's also about learning. Part of that too is learning how to read between the lines. Looking at the nonverbals, aka body language from others. And also watching your own cues. Because sometimes our mouths say one thing and our bodies and our vibe is saying something completely different. And you know what I mean? And you've picked it up from other people. And sometimes like, what is it that people are not saying? What's the energy about them? Another part that really ties into this is your personal integrity. How do you live your values? How do you show up? How do you walk the walk? If you're a leader and you do the do as I say, not as I do way of doing things, believe me, you are going to be called out. Or at the very least, others will notice it quickly. Now, whether you're a parent, and if you are, you're guilty of this. Or you're dealing with coworkers or the folks on your lawn bowling team or your fellowship as you move across Rohan and Eriador, battling orcs or whatever. Your message is always going to be tied into your own integrity. So I mentioned a little story. I worked in one place where the chef, everyone was young in this place. I was probably the oldest one, and I was the sous chef, and everyone liked to go out. I used to go out sometimes with them, but I would do the go out where like the drink or two then take off, whereas they would go out and they would go into the deeper and darker recesses of the evening, into the dodgy and sketchy spaces and doing things with who knows who and how often, etc. And the problem with that is when it came to work, there was, because the integrity, not that he didn't have an integrity, but there was a connection that they had that he was just one of the guys and he's a partier. And so when he would start to get vocal and voicing displeasure and trying to, get the guys to move, they were just like, oh yeah, it's okay. We'll just buy him a drink later and it'll all be fine. So the trust or the responsibility, authority was eroded in many ways. So when he communicated, it wasn't as strong as it could have been. Now, me, on the other hand, because I was known not for really swearing a lot or going out, there were times where I used that. And I recall one day there were two cooks who had really caused quite a commotion. I can't remember the exact details. And I was there first in the kitchen. And as soon as they walked in, I said, okay, you two, you are not going to speak at all today. I don't want to hear one fucking word from you two. And that was it. And that was it. The whole time, the whole shift, they were quiet unless they had to say something like, this one's coming up or, yes, chef or whatever. And that was because there was an integrity around it. And also me dropping that F-bomb very accented it very directly. And it just goes to show, it's language is a tool. It's how you do it. It's how you use it. And in this case, dropping the F-bomb was very intentional because they knew I meant business. I was serious. So when it comes to swearing and when it comes to communicating, I definitely have softened my view on the hard words. I used to be very anti-swearing, like in a way that sounded like, you're a potty mouth. I felt like, not that it was someone who was beneath me, not at all. But it just rubbed against who I was. But I see all words now as energy. And, how you choose them and when you use them is up to you. And in learning to watch my words, I stretched my capacity to express myself in clear and concise ways without resorting to my old go-tos, all the harsh language. I learned to shift language in a way that empowered and elevated and lifted other people's up, and I still do that. But yet I can be clear and direct even when I'm saying things people may not want to hear, but they need to hear. At the end, you have full control of your vocabulary, your integrity, your way of speaking, your overall communication. You don't have to sound flowery. You don't have to sound like a 17th century playwright or Victorian orator to speak to others. You just need to be you, but modified, if you will. Some of us need to temper our words and our delivery. Some of us wish to speak up more and more often and not people please. Others yet desire to be more clear, less cluttered, and have a direct point. The way that I learned to be clear, direct, and loud was when I was running a kitchen. I had to be. My team needed to hear me over the exhaust fans, the loud clanging of pots and pans, the harsh buzz of the dishwashing machine, and the general hubbub of many servers and bussers and managers and others passing through the kitchen. You know, all the cutlery clanging and all of that. And on top of that, if it was an open kitchen, the dining room itself. But you don't have to be in a kitchen or be heir to the throne of Gondor to lead with your words. You can start today. You can decide how you want to speak, show up, communicate. What energy do you want to step into? How do you want to lead yourself? That is, what's your self-talk like? Sometimes you can just start with that. How do you want people to experience you? What are your goals in interacting with others? So many questions that only you can answer. And hey, if you're unsure, just try things out. You never know how it'll turn out. As we used to say, 2 spits in a bucket, fuck it. Whew, well, thanks for being here, my friend. This is my communication to you. Feel free to follow, subscribe, leave a review for this podcast. It really helps to grow. Now that we're in season 2 of this audio-only podcast, we want to spread, not like Sauron, but like the light from within all creatures and entities in Middle-earth. If you need support in your own leadership, creativity, or life journeys, I'm here to help as a coach. It's what I do, y'all. Check out my website. It's in the description. And I am now taking on new clients as I'm looking to work with you to bring out more of that light within so you can lead, create, and build the life you dream of. Kitchen's closed. Now scram.